So the Warriors, they got Draymond Green back in the lineup on Monday, but they still lost. It's a trend that's become too familiar over the last month. Essentially, Green has been away from the team since December 14th. And in that time, the Warriors were at the bottom of the league in several defensive categories, as you can see. But the bigger problem is that all of that continued against the Grizzlies despite Draymond Green's return. So, as promised, let's welcome in the one and only Kendrick Perkins and look at the reality here, Perk, because the Warriors, they've lost 8 of 11, with last night's loss coming to a very short-handed Grizzlies team. And I understand that you have a word of the day to describe the state of the Warriors season.
It's actually a song of the day.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Feelings so deep in my feelings.
Oh, it's still going.
You know who that is? That's LMA. That's booed up. LMA booed up. This is the problem. They so deep in their feelings. Listen, you cannot have feelings if you're in the front office of an organization. Business and feelings don't mix. It never did. It never will. When I think about what the Memphis Grizzlies did to them last night, G.G. Jackson performed like Michael Jackson. Hell, we saw Williams Jr. smoke them last night. Even Martin Luther King couldn't have dreamed of that happening with the Golden State Warriors fully healthy. I mean, it was a fully disaster, and it's time to break it up. I mean, how many times I got to see it?
Well, I mean, let's get down to business then, because the trade deadline, it's 23 days away here, Woj. When we look at this roster, when we look at where the Warriors are at in the standings, how are they thinking about moving forward?
Well, listen, I think Golden State is open to listening on everybody on that roster except one player. You know who the one player is. But this isn't as simple as there's a player we like, here's a deal that maybe makes us better in the short term. The salary cap has such an impact on anything Golden State's going to do at the trade deadline. They're going to have to start getting salary off moving forward with this new with the new collective bargaining agreement. There's a $190 million threshold, and that if they don't do it now at the deadline, and if they don't want to do it in the summer, the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost you in attaching draft picks to get money off. And I think right now for Golden State, if you don't look at this team and say, we think we can be a championship team, we're willing to go into that second apron where you all of a sudden, you can't use your mid-level exception. Trades are impossible to make. You lose your draft picks. All of these things because we have a team with Steph Curry, Durant, Clay. We'll just keep going. Well, if you're not that, that's the question Golden State has for itself. And I don't think their decisions are simply right now, hey, we see a player we really like and we're going to trade for him, because financially they can't keep going forward at the salary level they're at.
And there's not really a player on the market right now that we're seeing in terms of that are in the trade talks that are a player that's going to go there and make that big of a difference. I love Pascal Siakam. I love Zach LaVine. I love DeJounte Murray. I don't know how they fit in a Warriors offense. This is awkward to watch, though. It's one thing to see the Warriors struggle like we have in the past when they had a lot of injuries or guys are out. We're seeing a fully healthy team, a team that we've seen build a dynasty and have much success, struggle and maintain and have any consistency and win games. And last night was not a matter of talent. That's a pride issue. They lost to a Memphis team that was down all their key players.
This is what the death of a dynasty looks like. And really, the Warriors deserve credit for holding it out as long as they did. That title run 2 years ago is an all-time magical moment where they had everything click together and they had one last ride. This is what it looks like. This is what it usually looks like when one superstar all-time great player spends his entire career with one team. This is why LeBron changes teams all the time. Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant, they all ended in sort of down rebuilding teams. This is what it is. And so this is the challenge the Warriors face. This year, I think, is over. Like, I don't think you can orient whatever trade you make to say, can we save our team this year? They're 4 games under 500. They're 4 games under 500. 4 games out of the 8th seed in the West. They are struggling just to stay in the play-in race. I think any deal they make has got to be oriented toward next season and the future, and how can we try to thread the needle of keeping a good team around Steph Curry, whatever that means, a financially viable team. That might mean getting off money, getting some flexibility back. I think any trade they make has got to be aimed there. This season, it looks like a sunk cost.
You say getting their flexibility back, and I think the decision might be as simple for the Warriors as, among our big money players, who do we like the least? Who do we value the least? And we're going to trade that player. at the deadline and start then to be able to build back a salary cap structure that gives you flexibility and maybe makes you to try to, maybe there's one more run you can make with Steph Curry, but it's probably just over.
I think they have 3 weeks to decide whether or not they're going to dismantle this now or in the offseason. I think we're there. I mean, you're a couple weeks ago, before Draymond's latest suspension, all that.
Right.
You would talk to people in Golden State, and they said, if we could just get all healthy.
Right.
If we could all see this team, we really like our team, we like our depth. A month has passed, and they have gotten worse. Chris Paul is out. Draymond Green is back, but all that we got to give them a little time. But I think this 3-week period is almost an audition. Do you like being in the Bay? Do you want to keep this team together? Because if they can show something in these 3 weeks that gives ownership, that gives a reason to continue to spend at this level to keep them together, then you can make that argument, okay, give them this season to figure it out. But if they can't, they have to make that call now.
And the one good expiring trade asset you had in Chris Paul, he's got you control his salary next season. So essentially he's an expiring contract. Because he's injured through the trade deadline, really not expected to be back until around the All-Star game, All-Star break.
Right.
You probably don't have a team out there that's willing to give you something because, hey, we need another point guard, or Chris Paul has some value to us. Usually guys like that don't get traded when they're injured.
I will say this, though. They have young players that people value. People like Jonathan Kuminga. People like Moody.
Y'all are killing me on this Tuesday morning. The writing is on the wall. If yesterday didn't bury the hatchet for you guys to see that this dynasty is over, I don't know what else I could tell y'all. Because when you look at it, a month ago, I talked about trading Klay Thompson or shopping him and seeing what you could get from him. And since then, we've heard Steve Kerr talk about the spirit of this team is gone. We heard Steph Curry talk about they don't have an identity. We have watched Jonathan Kuminga go public and call out Steve Kerr basically. And then the comments from Draymond Green last night basically about pride. Here's the thing. When you're not there and you're disjointed, you're not going to play good basketball. And so you think of the late, great Jerry Krause and what he did for a dynasty like the Chicago Bulls. It's no 6 championships without him. He is one of the greatest to ever walk into an organization. He had to make hard business decisions when he brought in Phil Jackson, when he discovered Scottie Pippen, when he went out and got Dennis Rodman, and then at the end when he had to break up the dynasty, when he knew it was over. You have to do that. And right now, the only thing that is keeping this organization intact or keeping these players in this organization or making the organization tough for them to make decisions is that their feelings attached. You cannot have feelings when you're dealing with business. It's written all over the wall that Klay Thompson don't want to be there or he's not happy.
But the value, you have to value back too.
Yeah, but Perk, and also, Krause put that team together. Dunleavy inherited this. It's a whole different decision to be inherited something and then be the guy that just first year on the job is, running the show to just ship everybody out.
Well, but it's also,
a dynasty.
It's not just about shipping everybody out, right, Ramona? It's also about looking, as Woj just mentioned, about who those high salary players are and what you can
Steph Curry's 36. Steph Curry is 36, and as long as you have Steph Curry, you're in the game. So who do you surround him with?
So here's the reality. When you're talking about who the big money players are for multiple years on their contracts, it's 2 guys. Right now, it's 2 guys. It's Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green.
Yes.
Yep.
And the disadvantage the Warriors have is that the other 29 teams have paid attention to the NBA over the last 6 months, 5 months, year, whatever, and seen Andrew Wiggins decline and seen Draymond Green just not be available. And so moving off of those guys, it's nice to talk about. Yep. It's going to be harder to do, and it's probably going to cost you some stuff you need to rebuild your team.
And the emotion, and Perk talks about it's emotion that's keeping this together. Yep. I think what it is a loyalty to Steph Curry.
That is what it is.
That for what he's meant to this organization, what he's done, where he still is in his career, we're going to exhaust every avenue we can to figure out if there's a way to keep going. But if we can't, then that's a conversation you have with Curry, because this is a player who has meant everything. That arena's there because of him. The championships are there because of him. Yep. Joe Lacob is a much richer man because of Steph Curry.
The valuation of the entire franchise.
So I think that's the conversation that's going to go on, is going on, and will go on between now and the deadline. and then into the offseason.
Absolutely. Perk, last word on this for now.
So let me ask y'all a question.
No, we're going
Klay
back around.
Thompson
Okay.
body language. No. So do in Klay Thompson body language, from what y'all been saying, do he looks like a guy that's engaged? I'm gonna answer it for you. No. I looked at one of the best storylines of yesterday in the football in the NFL. You know who that was? Baker Mayfield. And why I bring up Baker Mayfield is because I don't believe that Klay Thompson is finished. I don't think that Klay Thompson is struggling because he can't shoot the ball on a consistent basis no more. 90% of getting between the lines is mentality, is your mental. If a basketball player or an athlete is not mentally there, they're not going to perform at their highest level. So why I bring up Baker Mayfield is because if Klay gets a fresh start with a new surrounding and feel love, I think we'll see a better version of Klay Thompson on a more consistent basis. We can see it in his body language.